Hey guys, welcome to Digit.in, and what we have for you today is the review of the Realme 55-inch TV, the SLED TV that they have announced today, or depending on when you're watching this some time ago. But we've had the TV for a couple of days before it actually launched, so a couple of disclaimers out here. First of all, we don't know the exact price of the TV, but we believe it to be in the range of 40,000 to 45,000 rupees. It may be on the lower spectrum of 40,000 during the sale season right now, and it could be on the higher end of that spectrum for the rest of its life. So let's look at it this way. At the lower end of that spectrum, closer to the 40,000 rupee price point, we have the 55-inch TV from Hisense that we reviewed earlier, and we thought it was a great value for money proposition at 38,000 rupees. On the higher end of that spectrum, going above 45,000 rupees, we have reviewed the OnePlus 55-inch TV, for example, and there are a bunch of other TVs between the 45 and 50,000 rupee price point, which are actually a lucrative proposition. So does the Realme TV fill that void between the 45,000 rupee price point for a 55-inch TV? So let's quickly find out. Starting with the build and design, the TV has really slim bezels on three sides, and at the bottom where the Realme branding should be at the center, it's almost invisible. So unless you know where you're looking to find the Realme name, you may not even notice it. It's just very subtly there on the TV, which I think is actually really cool for a company to go that way with very subtle branding. You don't have the big badges. It looks nice, it gives it a cleaner feel, but you know, you might want to see the brand name to show it off. You might want a subtle experience. That's an entirely personal thing. Another thing to note is that the IR sensor is off center on the TV. It's not a big deal at all, but if you are OCD about looking at the red light when the TV switched off center, something to think about. But something that actually really bothered me, and if I move my head you will know exactly why, is that's the TV down there in my living room on the floor, simply because it did not fit on the table where I usually review TV. So if you've seen TVs in this year from us, then you know, and if you haven't, why don't you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you know when we upload a new review. But you will know that I have this table where I put the TV on it, and I have fit the TCL 65-inch C715 on that table. I've even fit the 65-inch Sony X9000H on that table, and they all fit fine, but the feet of this Realme TV protrude out too much and it didn't fit on that table. So you may want to check your entertainment center if the TV is going to fit on that tabletop, if you do plan to keep it on a tabletop. So that is something very important to keep in mind. It didn't fit on my entertainment center, and that is a big con, especially since I could fit 65-inch TVs on that table. But speaking of the feet, they feel very sturdy, they fit well into place, they are held by screws, and they hold the TV really nicely. Moving to the back of the TVs where the ports are, you have the standard slew of connectivity options. You've got a couple of USB ports, you've got 3 HDMI ports, one of them is ARC enabled, you've got an Ethernet port, you've got a coaxial port, you've also got a headphones out, which is great if you have 3.5mm connectivity for the TV. So the connectivity options are there, they're what we expect from TVs at this point, but the problem is that the HDMI ports are at the bottom, so that ergonomically becomes difficult, especially if you wall mount the TV and if you can't, kind of pull the TV up or lift it up a little to get your hand in to be able to see the ports. If they had a couple of ports on the side, it would be easier to get an HDMI cable in and out. So ergonomically, this TV doesn't seem to be in the most ideal position. Even if you put it on a tabletop, it's easier to just reach for the side. I mean, it's not like the ports are at a higher point in the TV. They're absolutely closer to the bottom at the back. So it kind of gets a little difficult if you want to remove an HDMI cable and put it back in. One can always argue that once you've got your 3 HDMI cables in, why do you need to remove them? Which is a fair point if you are someone that's going to think ahead and do it. If you need to change the cable, know that it could be a cumbersome process even if it's on a tabletop or on the wall. So ergonomically this TV does have some issues, but let's get to the crux of this TV. This is an SLED TV. So let's try to break down that technology while talking to you about the picture performance. So the backlighting of a normal TV will either be white LEDs or it will be blue LEDs, and then there would be a filter beyond the blue LEDs to break it up into red and green to be able to give you the picture on the TV itself. What happens is with white LEDs or with the blue LEDs, you do have that filter in between before the panel, and then the image is projected and the pixels are broken up. I'm trying to oversimplify this just so that you understand the point I'm going to make next, which is with SLED, what Realme says what they are doing is rather than just having the white backlighting or the blue backlighting, they actually have red, green and blue, all the three primary colors as the backlighting itself. So you have the backlighting, and then you have the display, but the layer that goes in between, a couple of those layers which are usually found on slightly more expensive premium TVs, is missing. What happens because of this is that the TV can get really bright, and that may not necessarily be a good thing. So let's break it down into content that we watch. Let's take an example of Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, where you have Tom Cruise on the motorcycle running, chasing on that really nice chase sequence on the highway, and the background can get a little too bright, which leads it to look slightly burnt. Then we have something like the Grand Tour on Amazon Prime Video Season 1 Episode 1, where you have all these beautiful cars driving across this desert, and it actually looks lush, it looks vibrant, it looks very watchable. And when you look at the sun in the background in a couple of shots, the panel looks slightly burnt. That would have been okay if you would have been able to press the menu button through the built-in apps and change from, let's say, the standard or the vivid preset, which are really bright, to something like the movie preset, which is slightly less bright. It brings down the brightness, the colors are slightly muted, not in a bad way, but it brings it down to that accurate level where you will enjoy all this content. So we played the same content from an external source, which was the Xbox, and be it Mission Impossible, the movie that we spoke about, Our Planet, which is another great show in HDR on Netflix, the Grand Tour, a Young Sheldon, some HDR, some SDR mixed content. It all looked absolutely great when played from the external source, simply because I could press the menu button and change the settings. This is a gripe I had with the 43-inch Realme TV, where I couldn't go into the settings to change the picture presets as per what I like. But in this TV, it makes a bigger deal because you actually need to do that to get the best out of this panel. It's a pretty good panel. Once you get the settings really right, you will enjoy watching content on it. Once I had hooked up my Xbox to this TV to watch Netflix, to watch Prime videos, when I plugged in a Fire TV Stick 4K to watch content of Hotstar, where I could change the settings to the way I like it, content is actually very enjoyable on this TV. It has a peak brightness of 300 nits, which is low for HDR, but the fact that darker sequences in HDR content are viewable, are watchable when you watch HDR content, be it Our Planet, even I saw a bit of Star Trek Discovery because season 3 is incoming. And all that content looked really nice, especially because the darker sequences were handled fairly decently in comparison to the bright sequences. So when in Star Trek Discovery, if you're going to look at the sun, the brightness is not going to overwhelm you per se, but it is going to look nice with the dark sequences that are there. So the panel performance of this TV is great, but the fact that you can't control the settings for the built-in apps will be a problem, because through whatever the natural preset is, content, the color of the content looks a little off, looks more burnt in my opinion. But through an external source, when you tweak the settings, it looks great. Moving over to gaming, we played Gears 5, an HDR game, Forza Horizon, another HDR game, and we played some Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is another HDR game. And for all three, the display actually worked well. Now, Assassin's Creed Odyssey has a problem of having a slightly yellow tint in some sequences, which was not present out here. In fact, when you switch to the nighttime gameplay in a game like Assassin's Creed on, let's say, the OnePlus TV that we reviewed recently, the panel was a little too reflective to enjoy nighttime gameplay for some of these sequences. But on this TV, that sequence was actually playable in a brightly lit room like the one I'm sitting in right now. So I would go as far as to say is, once you put the TV in game mode and connect a console to it, this TV can be really good for gaming. You're going to have a good gaming experience on it. Moving over to audio, it has two down-firing speakers and the audio sounds good. Now, Togo is one movie on Hotstar which we watch, which has this great sequence at about the 1 hour mark where, William Dafoe is with his sled and the dogs and running across ice, and the crackling sound of that ice is something that has a great impact if you have a really nice home theater or a sound bar. And from this TV, that actually sounded pretty good. Dialogues were easily audible. Even when playing a game like Assassin's Creed, we actually could hear everything from the slight noises that come in the environment, to the protagonist talking, to the chatter of the enemies. The audio output from this TV is considerably good, especially when you look at what we saw on, let's say, the OnePlus TV and also the Hisense TV. Again, two TVs at the extreme end of this range. The audio output from this TV is good. You can make do with it for quite some time before you decide to invest in a soundbar. By the way, Realme also announced a 100-watt soundbar as well when they announced this TV, so that's something to keep an eye on. When it comes to the UI is standard Android TV. It's what you expect from an Android TV. It works pretty well. It's pretty fluid once you get the initial setup done. But the only one problem, and I hope we can show you guys this, is while working with it on Netflix, when I pressed the Google Assistant button to actually get some voice controls out, it kind of hung for a second and the TV got a little lost. But from the home screen, if I'm going to ask it what's the weather like, or take any suggestions from what Netflix is saying, like play Stranger Things on Netflix. The Google Assistant works absolutely fine, but there are a couple of hiccups here and there. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's something we've seen on many Android TVs, but it's just to mention it because this is something you never face when you have a higher end TV, in case you wonder why you should spend a lakh instead of 50,000 rupees on a TV. These are gripes you don't face there. It's nothing out of the ordinary. Like I said, it's something we've faced on multiple TVs in the past. Coming to the remote control, and the reason I've left this for last is because Realme has gone with a if it ain't broke, don't change it approach. It's the same remote that came with the 43-inch TV. I absolutely like this remote like I liked it then. The buttons are nice and clicky, it's rubbery, it's got a good look with this yellow circle in the middle. I like the remote control. It's got this teardrop kind of a design. It gives it a good grip. It's something that I have absolutely enjoyed using. So here's answering the 40 to 45,000 rupee question is, should you consider buying the Realme TV? Well, it does have its pros and it does have its cons. It is not the most ergonomic TV, like we've said. It doesn't fit on the tabletop we've been using, and the ports aren't the most conveniently placed. However, if you're going to wall mount it, it does have slim bezels and the design is pretty decent. The connectivity options also at the back aren't the easiest to reach, but once you've done your cable management, that really shouldn't be a problem. When it comes to the picture quality, let's get the great stuff out of the way. It is a great TV for gaming. We enjoyed gaming on this TV considerably. However, when you consume content from the OTT apps that are built in, you are going to see that the skin tones are slightly off, some content looks slightly burnt, and you cannot control that because you can't simply press the menu button, go into the settings and change it. You will need to connect an external source like a Fire TV Stick 4K, because this is a 4K HDR TV, and use that to consume content, simply because you can control the settings, bring some of the settings down. The movie preset is great for most content that you will watch on this TV, and it does bring down that level of content which looks slightly burnt to a much more acceptable, enjoyable level in fact. So that is where the panel works really well. So there you have it, guys. That was our review of the Realme TV. The speaker output is good, the remote control works well. It's if it ain't broke, don't fix it formula that they've gone with, which I really like. We've spoken about the picture quality, we've spoken about the gaming performance. If there's anything more about this TV that you'd like to know, you can always let us know in the comment section below, and we will do our best to answer it. Until then, you can subscribe to our channel. I will catch you in another video. It's goodbye for now.